Well, hi. Welcome to the Meaning Quest channel, which I hope to become the YouTube hub for what used to be the Jordan Peterson Phenomenon Meetup group. I'm Pete, the facilitator. If you attended the previous group at all, you will see I look a lot different since shaving my beard, since losing my beard. The reward is that people say I've lost 10 years, so that makes it worth it. I may not look so wise anymore though, which is a downside. With this video, I'm taking the next step in reshaping the Jordan Peterson group to become the Meaning Quest Meetup group. This video is both an introduction and an explanation of that decision. First, some background. For several years, I've been following and engaged with the cultural phenomenon of which Dr. Jordan Peterson became both spear and figurehead for a time. This includes my running of the previous meetup group. Jordan Peterson brought a less heard, less attended to perspective onto the world stage of thought and experience and reflection, or deep thinking. To me, his thinking bridged back from our postmodern deconstructionist time to a time of what's called classical liberalism. This was a time of hope in and reliance on science that still retained a respect for a deity or spiritual religious life of some form. It was a time in which if you had a product to sell that you could put a person in a white lab coat holding and saying it was good for you, people would gobble that up, literally, because of that trust in science. So now I want to talk a little bit about the switch to this broader focus. I've written some about it and shared it with the group before, but I thought I'd put it in a video. I have, since becoming interested in the Peterson cultural phenomenon, come to believe that his work and the interest it generated are part of a bigger cultural struggle, and that fascinates me. Part of a searching. And my interest has moved to that understanding of our current situation. And so I think it's fair to say that the Jordan Peterson phenomenon is a subset of this bigger issue. So what I see is that we, as society, in particularly North America, have lost our moorings, our rootedness in ideas and actions that used to make life meaning-laden, even if we didn't necessarily understand the actions. We've gradually turned our noses up at religion, in quotation marks, because all these words have complex meanings, and now have also lost trust in science. And by that I mean that we see, and we've come to see, that it too can be manipulated and is not nearly as objective as when it was first presented and beginning to be explored. Not only have we lost trust in religion and science, we've, and again quotes, gone critical on some of the other basic building blocks of societal cohesion, and we're struggling to bring a new order to a world that has lost the structural architecture of archetypes. You're probably learning that I like playing with words a little bit too, but also words that harken back to things that Jordan Peterson and others would say. So we've lost the structural architecture, the undergirding, the underpinnings of our archetypes and our archetypical myths, as Peterson would say. And now we're in a weird space. He talks a lot about the nihilism that comes out of that. So there's a whole lot more to say about that, and I already added more than I had in my notes that I had prepared. And so I'm just going to have to get into that another time if I ever get to that. Some of the building blocks did require critical reflection, and so I want to make that clear. some of those building blocks in both religion and science and other things needed critical reflection. So I want to make it clear that I welcome some of that. Some of our relationships to power need always critical reflection. So I just wanted to acknowledge. So now I want to talk about the bigger umbrella that I want to situate our group under. Peterson's colleague at the University of Toronto, John Vervaeke, is leading reflection on that whole phenomenon that I just outlined, which he calls the meaning crisis. And I'll admit right here that I haven't had time to see all his videos, so I'm going somewhat, I've seen some of his conversations with others, so I'm going on what I presume is the case or what I've heard others say about what he does. I like what he's trying to do for sure. So John Vervaeke is exploring awakening from the meaning crisis, and he has a whole series of videos about that. And by the way, I will provide the text that I'm basing this video on, and the text has links built into it to the things I refer to. So he's working on awakening from the meaning crisis, and in his own way is trying to construct a new architecture out of the crisis. Some people have typified that as a religion that's not a religion, which is also a fascinating concept. I like what he's doing, in as much as I understand and follow it. Jonathan Peugeot, another YouTuber, who does some great thinking and teaching on symbolism and archetypes on his channel, along with a few others, have helped me to kind of pull all this together. Paul Vanderklay is another person. And with all of those things, it's converged into what I'm creating today. So it's out of this that I've come up with the name Meaning Quest for the second iteration of this group. Again, I have communicated with you in writing before that I was aiming for this kind of a thing. This is now the implementation of it. I want to be upfront about some of my agenda and my interests in doing this. First, I have a strong interest in exploring cultural patterns, trends, and phenomenon. I've lived long enough that I've seen some pendulum swings in cultural patterns. And so it's fun to start trying to see where the pendulum has swung in a certain direction. And then when somebody says, hold on a second, what's going on here? And then the pendulum starts going back. In a sense, when Jordan Peterson stood up and started objecting to the system, the institution, putting pronouns in his mouth, that's somebody saying, this pendulum has swung too far. That's the phenomenon I mean. So I just have a large interest in that, and I love exploring it myself and with other people who are interested in it. Another one is that I have a conviction that in our society, so this is not just a curiosity or anything, I have a conviction that there is a huge need for us to learn to converse and dialogue across our differences. When we have a difference of understanding, a difference of opinion, or any other kind of a difference. We all tend to be different phobic. Xenophobic is often what that's called. And we seem to be a culture that is retreating more and more into a certain kind of tribal approach to differences. We're actually, in my view then, decivilizing. So, and here if you know of Richard Mouw at all, he's one that has talks out there about civil conversation. Another group that I have interest in is the Colossian Forum, which does this from within a Christian perspective. So I have this conviction that this needs to be practiced and learned and developed to dialogue across our differences. That's complicated, it's hard, but I hope that the Meetup group, Meaning Quest, can be a place where we continue to do that. We did that a bit already at the Jordan Peterson Meetup. At the same time, I need to tell you, I'm very much a learner as to how this works. Those who know me know I have a phrase that I call preaching to the choir in the locker room, which depicts how, and especially in a time when we've become more tribal, we start to try and find people in the locker room who we pretty sure believe like us, and then we talk about our real beliefs in that setting, and actually just increase the tribalism. The third area of interest for me in this, of course, I'm simply disguising that I want to become rich and famous on YouTube like many others before me. Apparently, it's not appropriate to mention that right up front. But it's there. There's this always wondering. So, not really. I have interest in identifying how the church, and I put that in quotes as well, in general, is responsible for and blind to and impotent towards how it has become irrelevant. It's a whole train of thought of my own as well. And I've discovered that I learn best about that by engaging with and talking with people who are outside of the effects of that institution that we call the church. So there's the background and introduction, some basics about what I'm trying to do, why I'm switching the name to something else to cover a bigger umbrella. And a couple things I commit to is I have no intention of making very long videos, but I might make many short ones. And so I already have another one planned where I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself as the facilitator of this group, and also how I see this group as part of a phenomenon that's newly developing out of what someone else has done related to the Jordan Peterson phenomenon. Thank you for watching. You know all the stuff about subscribing and liking and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean as much to me as you might think it does. I also want to say that if you do leave comments, I'll likely read them, but I'm not sure I'll engage through comments directly. I see that as becoming something that's very time consuming if it gets any momentum at all. But that doesn't mean comments are unwelcome, but I won't necessarily engage them. Okay, I hope that helps you begin to understand what I feel we're trying to do here.